always been drawn to ministry. I loved being in church growing up. In fact, the best way for my mom to ensure that I did my chores was to threaten that I couldn't be involved in some church activity. I can remember being burdened even as a child to see the church grow and imagining what I would do if I was leading my church. And this wasn't at all done in an arrogant way. You see, I never considered that God was calling me to ministry. In fact, I didn't even know that God had a specific plan for my life. I thought maybe, he had plans for other people's lives, but not mine. I had a whole list of things that I wanted to be when I grew up. But pastor or ministry certainly wasn't on the list because it was just too much of a stretch. I figured that I was too quiet and introverted to preach, and I'm pretty sure that no one else saw that ability in me. So I went through my high school years unmotivated. At this time, there were some prayers that seemed to go unanswered, and so it was hard for me to believe that God had a good plan for me, that God in fact had plans to prosper me and not to harm me. When I got to college, I got involved with some ministries on campus, mostly because I couldn't help but do ministry. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know what I wanted to major in, and so I chose communications because for me it was general, and it was almost like not choosing. After being involved with these ministries for some time, I again thought that this is what I would like to do with my life. But again, I didn't know and I didn't trust that God had a plan for me. So I decided to create my own plan. I decided that I was going to go into the nonprofit sector, and because it was noble, I figured that it would give me fulfillment, meaning, and purpose. I figured that maybe one day I could work in a faith-based nonprofit, or even better, start a faith-based nonprofit. I changed my minor and I began working on a certificate in nonprofit management. But once I graduated, I first began to sense that I wasn't going to find a job, and this wasn't what God had for me. Not knowing what to do, I started working on my master's. But once I completed it, I again began to sense that this wasn't what God had for me, and that I wasn't going to find a job. For close to a year and a half, I tried my best to enter the nonprofit sector with no results. But it was through this process that God taught me to trust Him. It was through this process that God showed me how much I relied on myself. It was through this process that I learned to surrender my life to God. I realized that ministry was never my idea to begin with. I realized that it was a desire that God placed on my heart. I realized that He was the good shepherd. Even though I was going in another direction, He wasn't going to just let me go. He was going to chase after me. This journey hasn't been easy. I've had to conquer fears and overcome obstacles. God has definitely guided my steps, but sometimes while on the path, it seems as though I've turned backwards. Some things have happened quickly and others painfully slow. But I want to encourage you that God has a plan for your life, and it's bigger than what you can conceive. Sometimes we think that our weaknesses disqualify us, but it's when God stretches us beyond our ability that His power is clearly shown. God specializes in using the weak. He specializes in using the underdogs, the people who are underestimated. My challenge to you is that you pursue the call that God has on your life boldly. Conquer those fears, because God has great things in store for you.